You ready to talk pleasure principle?
I'm so ready.
I can't believe we're at track 11.
The end.
Or is it the beginning?
It's both. I like to listen to stuff on repeat. So if I was listening to the album, I would just go back to RSVP. So yeah, it's kind of like, I like that. I like the cycles and circles. But yeah, I'm pumped about pleasure principle. I'm pulling up your poem now because, you know, this poem just really affects me. I love it so much. What do you remember about writing the poem? Was it during the time that you were doing the book?
Yep, it was during time. It was actually the very last poem in the book. It almost didn't make it in.
Wow.
It was, yeah, it wasn't, it was an unintended child that was born, the unexpected, you know?
The accidents are always the best.
Exactly. It was a happy accident. Really, it's a love poem.
Yeah.
It's really a love poem. It's a love poem to life. I call it a love poem for the universe. But it's really about the joy and pleasure of being alive and getting to create our experience and to just be a creative being on this planet and get a chance to savor all of it, right? Like,
Yeah.
all of it. Even the pain is part of the pleasure, you know, it's all one thing. So it felt important to me to have that in the book because the book also has, you know, it has valleys and this felt like a peak that needed to be in there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad it exists. And it's funny to think that that it was the last one and that it almost didn't happen because to me, it's always tough to pick your favorite children. Like you love them all, but man, there's something about this track, this poem, the music, like everything. It's just like, I shared this with you once before, but like, this is the only thing I've ever made where I was just listening back to it and it made me cry. I've never had that experience before. But it was like very profound. I just remember listening to it and just crying, almost not even knowing why. Just kind of like, just the beauty of it, I guess. Just all of it, like what it conjures up, not just the words or just the music, but just everything. So yeah, I'm just so happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thought because I think oftentimes beauty can move us to tears, you know, like life's beauty, not just the poem or the track, but
yeah,
it's so moving when we think about the preciousness of our existence and all of the beauty of life, all the pleasure, the beauty, the pockets of desire and joy. Yeah, it's moving.
Yeah. I want you to talk to me about what pleasure means and represents to you, because as I was working on the track, you know, I had this unique experience of living with your poems in this way where it's literally just over and over and over as I'm recording and as I'm listening back, mixing everything. And so like, I would say that like I have a very strong relationship with this poem and the ideas that are presented. And it resonates with me on a really deep level. But before I share, I'm just curious, like, what is it to you? What is pleasure representing?
Well, as a woman, I felt like it was important to reclaim pleasure.
Yeah.
Because so often, I think when a woman talks about what pleases her, what brings her pleasure, we immediately enter the like sexual zone. And yeah, pleasure is also erotic. That is part of it, but it's far from the only thing that gives us pleasure. Like we can indulge and get pleasure as women from so many different things.
Yeah.
And so it just feels like such a sensuous, beautiful word that encompasses how sweet life can be, how ripe and juicy and sweet and amazing life can be, especially when we're in the creative director's chair, consciously creating our experience. And so I wanted to try to capture everything that pleasure felt like and what it meant to me. Freedom feels like pleasure to me. And that's why it opens with a road trip. Because like, I don't know, there's nothing else that feels as freeing and as liberating and as pleasurable as a road trip. Like, you know, and I love the desert. I'm a desert witch. There's something about the expanse of the desert. Once again, freedom is like a core value of mine. So the opening of the poem kind of starts there. Well, first it's like a l'chaim, which is to health, to life, right? Like cheers, like here we're about to go, get ready. You know, the event is about to begin. Cheers, like let's go. And then that just felt like a really great place to start. And music gives me pleasure, and being with people I love, like my mother, and not thinking about the history and the difficulty that came before, and eating an artichoke gives me pleasure, and intimacy with my partner, and orgasms, and the sun, and memories, and high school. And like, there's so many things. And that's like the energy of the poem. It's like, oh my
Yeah.
God, life. Fuck.
It's
I want to take
everywhere.
such it's everywhere. It's here. And we just need to see it and feel
Yeah.
it and be like, oh, what would give me pleasure? Oh, this gives me pleasure. So part of it is like a reclamation, a reckoning, and then like a savoring, like a languishing in what's pleasurable. Because
Yeah.
what bigger gift to give life for the gift that's given us than to really enjoy our experience here when we can, all of it, all sides of it.
Yeah.
And it
I
feels
love
like
it.
love to me.
You said it feels like love to you, so I'll explain sort
Yeah.
of the way that I interact with this poem, and I will say I love the way it starts. You say, "Bring all of me online, all systems go, L'chaim." I love that beginning, and I'll speak quick to the music, but like that's where you first hear the minor chord come in, like "Bring all of me online," and all the frequencies start to come in. And even when you say L'chaim, I remember moving it so it matched up perfectly with this little piano twinkle. There's just something about it, just like, ooh, I just love the way it starts. Like your words, then the way the music got to work with that. But as far as pleasure goes for me, maybe this is part of why I think I had such an emotional experience with it. There's this book called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. And it's a cool book. And in it, the author is talking about quality. Like that's the word that he becomes like obsessed with. And he's like, what is quality? Like, is quality something that you assign, or is it something that exists? Like, what is quality? And the way that he described quality reminds me of how the Tao Te Ching talks about the Tao. And it reminds me of the way people talk about God. It reminds me of love, like this idea of this thing that's everywhere and this force that binds us. And to me, whenever I was listening to you talk about pleasure, you're like, it's everywhere, it's here, it's there, it's everywhere. I was like, it's the Tao, it's quality, it's God, it's everything, it's everywhere. And even the pain, like underneath all of that, it's all pointing to all those things that we said: pleasure, quality, God, Tao, love, whatever. I don't know. There's something about that I think that's why I think I resonated with the poem so much. It's just, it's that thing. It's that, it doesn't matter what you call it. We're kind of all talking about the same thing. I was listening to Pete Holmes recently, the comedian. He was like, the way that people talk about death, it's like you go back to God or you go back to nothing. We're all saying the same thing. Like, and it feels like that. And when you talk about pleasure, it feels like Pia's version of all of it. And I don't know. I love it. I've said before that I feel like there's so much beautiful wisdom that comes through your poetry, because I know you're getting it from wherever we get these things from, and this feels like the most visceral version. Like it's just the best. I love it so much. So
Thanks.
that's what pleasure is to me.
Yeah, well, it's so meta because listening to the track was so pleasurable because you captured, and I want to hear more about the music in a minute.
Yeah.
You really captured for me this dreamy freedom, pleasure, a lush kind of feeling with also with the synths, and like hearing it was like, oh my God, that's Tyler's version of pleasure. And it was so pure because it was also coming from you, from your heart, from your love, from your creativity, from where these things come from.
Yeah.
And to hear it then served back to me was like extra pleasure, double pleasure, you know. We both climaxed. Like it was just like, oh, this is so good. So it was really beautiful, and I think especially this particular track really captures the beauty of co-creation.
Yeah, for sure. Again, you love all your darlings, but there are some times when you're collaborating on something or creating something where both people are hitting their max. And this feels like that. It feels like, again, like one of your most inspired works. And I guess the same is true for me. The way that you're talking about it, I'm just thinking of mirrors. It's just like this idea of reflecting. And so when I take in what you have, I'm like, oh, I've got to reflect something back that is like that is as good as that is as pure as that. Like there's something about that I think happens. It's this idea of like when you're collaborating, there's this sense of like, I have to meet you. Like, I can't let you down. It's something that we talked about very early on in our collaboration. It's one of the first things we said is like, we go till we're both happy. And there's this idea too of, I want to serve you in the way that you're serving me. And so, yeah, if you serve me this beautiful poem, I'm compelled to make you something that I feel like is as good, or at least fitting, I guess, in some way. So, yeah.
Well, I just love hearing how you interpret it. And I think that's what makes it good, is that it's yours. It comes from that heart space. It just felt like this is Tyler's version of pleasure, musically, sonically. And then hearing them both come together, really, I hope people find a piece of pleasure listening to the track.
Same.
Like whether it inspires them to think of what brings them pleasure, or that they just feel pleasure by virtue of listening. Man, that would be like pleasure tripled, or 10x, 100x, just to know that maybe that could be shared. And I think that was really what was also behind writing it. Yeah.
You mentioned my version of it, and it is because like I'm just so in love with 80s synthesizers. I've always been drawn to them. I remember like when I first started playing music, I was playing drums first before anything. It's funny because actually drums came last in this. We'll talk about that, I guess. But I just remember listening to records very early on and being like, ooh, what are those? And they were synthesizers, you know, and I went back and listened to a bunch of 80s stuff. Like I love like Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, like all those classic 80s records. And I've been in bands that were more synth focused. And so it was fun to go all in on just like 80s synth goodness. Like I just love to do that. There's something about it. It's funny because you reference Joshua Tree, you talk about the desert, and I very much throughout this was channeling like Daniel Lanois, Brian Eno production on like U2's The Joshua Tree. That was where my head was. I love that record so much, and I love the way that Daniel Lanois talks about making music, and I feel like a lot of my process was probably like similar to the way that I hear him talk about things. It's just intuitively, I think I just line up with the way that he likes to think. But yeah, do you have the prompt? Because you're the one that set the vibe, and I was able to just tap right in.
It's actually the shortest prompt, or the shortest vibe, which I find really interesting. So vibe, synth beats, dreamy, riding a wave of pleasure, a vein throbbing, rhythmic, synthesizers that mirror physical sensations. The dreamy quality adds a layer of euphoric haze over the driving beat, like being lost in a pleasure-induced trance.
Cool. I love that. I always liked reading what you were looking for, because they were in a way like of themselves little pieces of art. I would read your prompts and I'd be like, damn, she's so good at writing. It was always like inspiration before, like additional inspiration, I guess. This one was fun. I've talked about this a few times. I've heard this talked about in life. I'm better at it in creativity in life, but I'm getting good at it in life too. Maybe by virtue of making this album. But this principle of knowing what you want, but like holding the idea rather loosely, because just allowing something to come to you. And I remember that this was one of the first tracks that I made for the album, and I was working on Hungry, and I was in my studio space in Lake City that I had at the time, and I was on the keyboard, and it was the first version of Hungry. I knew that I was going to do an 80s synth thing, but I didn't really think about what it would be like. Like I was like, it'll just come, like whatever. And I played these 4 notes. And when I played those 4 notes, I remember instantly being like, that's it. That's pleasure principle. And it's just the bum, 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 bum. I'm doing the pitches bad, but like just the arpeggiator that plays throughout the entirety.
How did you know?
How did I know?
Yeah, that was pleasure principle.
I don't know. I think it was just like a feeling. Because I knew it was going to come. So I was like somewhat expectant, though pretty open to like I was literally on an entirely different song. But when I heard those 4 notes, like I knew it wasn't Hungry, because Hungry was more minor key and this was more major key. So I knew that. But also, I think that when I played those 4 notes, it was a arpeggiator. It was a synthesizer arpeggiator like you would hear in 80s tracks. Like I love arps. And so I guess it was that. And then it just had a good feeling. Like it's just like a good energy to it, you know? And I create a lot that way. Like I can break it down and tell you what the notes are, but it's more about just the way that it feels. And so it just had that, yeah, maybe that pleasurable quality. There was dissonance, but it wasn't minor. It was major, but it wasn't overly happy. It was just kind of like just a vibe. It was just a good vibe. And I think that once I had that, I very quickly laid it down. I maybe added one extra note and just kind of flew it out to where I had a lot of it. And then I remember just going, okay, well, I need a synth bass. And then when I started playing the synth bass, it definitely had the throbbing energy that you had talked about. And I realized that it didn't seem to need drums. And I thought that was kind of cool because that gave it more of like a floaty,
Yeah.
you know, it's still grounded because it has lower frequencies, but it just kind of, I don't know, there was something about it. I was like, it doesn't need drums. I'm not going to put any drums on this. And I remember then that from there, you had that idea about this like dreamlike haze. And I never had done this much before, but now I do it often, where I was like, I'm just going to play and record this synthesizer live. Because when you're in a studio, you can do whatever you want. You don't even have to play shit. You can just like hit buttons on your computer and just put it all up in what they call like MIDI. Like you can just MIDI it out. You don't have to play anything anymore. But I was like, what if I just like start at the beginning and I hit record and I just listen to Pia's words and I think about how I feel. Do I feel open? Do I feel tense? Do I feel pleasure? Like how much pleasure? Like where's the climax? Where do I need to come back down? And I had all that in my mind, but I knew that I would just kind of like feel it out. And yeah, that became something that I would do. I know I've done it on a few tracks that I just did on an instrumental EP I released. I know that I had done that some there, but I think I did it on another track for our project. Can't remember which one, but just like letting it happen. Like I just
Thirsty.
flowed with life. Oh yeah, Thirsty. Yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thirsty is another one. And but yeah, this is like where I did it first. And there was something about not having a real structure to it. Like just playing the parts, not really having a plan, not really thinking too much. Like again, I had the shape of the thing, like the song was laid out. I had your poem already laid out, but just flowing with it. Like you've got that line, flowing with life. And I think about that all the time now. And it was just that. And that was pretty much it for the first portion of the music. That got us to our vibe check, and I sent it to you, and you can tell me your response if you remember, because it was
I remember
quite animated.
I was like, oh man, that's just so pleasurable. It's so rad. It's just, yeah, I really felt it in my bones. It just felt like pleasure, and that was the whole point. It felt like your version of it, and it felt true, and it felt real, and it reverberated within me. And I think that's the best thing we can ask from art, is that we really feel the peace and we feel the energy that went into it. And so, yeah, I was pretty emphatic because it's an important poem. I mean, they all are, but for this one especially, I was like, ooh, this would be so nice just to see what comes from this. And, you know, you just never know. You never know what the vibe will be and what the checks are. And it was just from day one, from hearing those first four notes, you know, it's like, oh, okay, yep, here we go. Here we go. Hi, let's get going.
I love that. You mentioned the peaceful thing, and like that is a feeling I look for when I'm creating. Like it feels like that's what happens when you go to that pure creative space. Like it is a very peaceful sort of space. You're not thinking about everything else going on in life. You know, you're just thinking about, or I don't even know. Sometimes it doesn't feel like I'm thinking. It's more just
Deep presence.
Yeah, it's deep presence, and it's a very peaceful feeling. And like that, I actually like, because I was documenting all of the creative work I was doing at the time, and like I have the video of me playing Pleasure Principle for the first time.
To drop it in.
Yeah, we can do that.
Tyler Bodkins, I hope you're having a fantastic Thursday filled with like creative projects and champagne in your bloodstream in the way that like you're excited, not necessarily that you drunk a bottle of champagne, though. Hey, if that's your jam. I'll let you go, hop on this podcast, and speak to you soon. Bye.
Hey, Pia. I'm glad that you enjoyed. Your energy is the best. Thank you so much for all the kind words and everything. I'm excited. I'm glad you like it. maybe I could have detailed a couple things, but I'll detail it now. I think that it'll be helpful. So what I'll say is like, okay.
Holy fucking shit! That is so good. Woo, honey. Fucking fire. I got the chills multiple times. Full body chills.
And I remember like being in that space. And like when I'm in that space, I know like, okay, here's something. Like you just know. So when you mentioned peace, it was that, because what we're talking about, this idea of like this presence, whether you call it love or God or Tao or whatever you want to call it, quality, pleasure. It's like when you're in that place, one of the things that you have is that deep peace. And so, yeah, I'm just grateful for it. Then as we got closer to the end, and we had settled on the fact that this was going to be the album closer, I don't know what happened. I guess the drummer in me came out, and I was like, oh, I will say this. We talked about this before, where like at the very beginning of the process, when the poem was done, the song was done, right? Like that was just kind of the way things were. But by the time we got towards the end of the process, it was like sometimes there's extended outros. And because this was the end of the album, I was like, wouldn't it feel so pleasurable if like the drums ramped up and the energy just went super high? And I just remember one night sitting there, and I remember thinking like, I have no idea if Pia will like this at all. But I was just like putting the drums down and extending the outro. And luckily, I think you did enjoy it. And it was so fun to have this big, bombastic outro to the album, but be just this like beautiful song.
I mean,
And
I loved when you did that. I personally think it takes a lot of courage just to go beyond and not really worry too much about what the other person thinks if it feels right, you know? And it's like, this feels right to me. So I would love to receive those extra long endings, or like when you really allowed yourself to go for it, because it just shows how you see things and how you would create them. And then it just creates a whole new dimension of the piece. And I love that. 'Cause that's the whole thing. It's not just about me and my poetry. It's about us creating something brand new together. So it doesn't even have to align perfectly with the poem, or I don't know. So that creative freedom always like resonated. Those bits where you're like, oh, I'm going to add some more. I'm just going to go off on a tangent. I'm going to make this like twice as long. And I'm just going to do some music here. Like, I love that. That really spoke to me.
We've talked about it so much throughout the series of the podcast, but like that speaks to that trust we've got. And there's also just that openness and that freedom to explore. And there was not really much of a question, because I think we clicked so much at the beginning of the project, but by the end of, I mean, like, I was doing it. I had no qualm about doing it. I didn't know if you would like it or not, but there was still that level of openness and trust. There's some collaborations where I feel like you might be like, oh no, like, I don't know if it wasn't like that, because again, like, that's not that space we were talking about. That's that closed off fear kind of, that's not where I think anything came from on this project. It all came from that open, trusting space. And so, it's just a further credit to you and just like the way we collaborate. I don't know. I guess this is my theory of everything, that like we all are essentially like existing. We're all just the universe experiencing itself, something like that. Like we can say it as simple as that. And I think that it's a nice thing to say. It's another thing to really feel and really believe. And there's always these polarities at play within ourselves. You mentioned like the pain and the pleasure, and they're not really opposites. They're just this polarity that we're trying to bridge or something, and I feel like that's what's happening on a grand scale. And I took a couple of synthesizers at the end, including the arpeggiator that plays at the beginning, and I just like, this is like a very subtle thing, but you can listen back on headphones and you'll notice. And for the outro, that arpeggiator goes from being in the middle to like being off to one side, and there's this other synth that comes in only in the outro. It's like dun 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 dun, something like that, and it's very Phil Collinsy, which I love. And it starts on the right side, and so they're like on two different sides, complete opposites. And then through the outro, they just kind of do this. They just kind of get closer to each other and closer until eventually it's just like everywhere. And taking that idea and taking you saying it's everywhere and just putting it over and over and over and over, like, oh, when I hear that it's everywhere, just repeated so much, there's something about it that I'm just like, oh, it can almost give me chills just talking about the idea of like, it's everywhere. Like whatever you're looking for, whatever you call it, whether you call it love or God or pleasure or whatever, it's like, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere, and it's right here. I think that's another important thing.
Yeah.
It's everywhere is also, it's right here.
Yeah.
It's right here. Because so often we look outside of ourselves, or we like search or push or try or force. And the irony is that it's right here.
Yeah.
It's like right here. It's not over there. It's right here. And it takes a lot of trust and also patience, not waiting for something to happen, not like a waiting, but more just like a trusting slowness to be able to receive everything that's right here.
Yeah.
That's a practice.
It definitely is. Because there's still the human side that's like, yeah, but I want this and I want that.
Yes.
And there's nothing necessarily anything wrong with desires as long as you're not ruled by them completely. And that's what I'm saying is like hearing that it's everywhere is that reminder. You had this thing that you taught me where you said that someone had said to you, the opportunity. What was it?
Yeah.
Become aware of the
Yeah.
opportunities.
It really shifted something within me. Let me just preface it by saying that it was a tarot reader actually who was giving me
Cool.
an affirmation for a new moon. And she's like, it could start something like this. Like, I, Pia Lister, asked the universe to allow me to recognize opportunities to do what I love. And I sat with that and I actually extended it. I said, allow me to recognize opportunities to do what I love and become deeply fulfilled, wildly successful, and stinking filthy rich by so doing.
Yeah.
Like, why not? The universe is not on a budget. Like,
Yeah.
let's break that scarcity loop and thinking. And so what really struck me was recognize opportunities. Hey, wait a minute.
Yeah.
That means they're already here.
Yeah.
I just might not recognize them.
Yeah.
And that really hit me somewhere deep. To this day, if I find myself, trying, pushing, kind of energy, I just go, hey, whoa, wait a minute. What are the opportunities that are already here that I might not be recognizing? What if there's nothing to grab, to find? It's already here. And that means slowing down, right? You have to slow down, stop and actually take stock and look around what's around you, what's happening. And I always find gold.
I love
it's always
that.
there somewhere.
Yeah.
Just might not look like it.
It reminds me, there's this book called Course in Miracles. It's like this giant 600-page textbook.
Marianne Wilkinson, right? She did a version of that.
She wrote Return to Love. Yeah. And it's the much easier to get into version. I'll say that. Both have their merits. They're both great. And it defines miracles as the bringing about of the awareness of love's presence. And it's that same idea that you're talking about. And again, you can substitute love for God or whatever you want. It's just the idea of you're just becoming aware of it. You're just opening back up to it. And I think it's that idea that you're sharing. It's that idea that I'm talking about, that it's everywhere. It's just a reminder that it's right here. It's not some far off place. It's there too. That's fine. But also it's here. I don't know. It's, I guess, a reminder maybe to enjoy the journey, which we've talked about a lot, like enjoying the journey and still looking for the destination. That's fine. But don't forget, it's right here too. So there's something about it that just, this poem really does it for me. And even the way you talk about, there's this one section, hold on, because I have it right here, because there's so many beautiful parts. But, in the sun's kiss, in the heart of an artichoke, art that makes me cry, chopped onions and heartache, and the monstera plant that shows me how to take up space. It's everywhere. Because, I love when I'm listening to that part, and there's a couple little things I did to highlight some of those things. It's just a reminder of those things are free or very, very inexpensive and certainly very accessible. All these things are right there. Just go outside. It's so beautiful. I love it. I know it's simple, but sometimes it's the simple stuff that really
Well, it's back to that recognition. It's back to recognizing that it's all available if we allow ourselves to take pleasure in it, to recognize it, to become aware of it, to luxury and lounge in it. And the poem is also an invitation to myself and to others to do that. Hey, wait a minute. What feels like pleasure to you?
Yeah.
Think about it. And how might you create that right now? What would be a pocket of pleasure that you could give yourself right now in this moment, right? And that is just such a beautiful way to treat ourselves.
Yeah.
And again, it's a love poem for life. It's thank you. This is good. I love you. I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna enjoy this. And for whatever reason, we don't always allow ourselves the luxury of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been great. I've loved chatting about this whole project. I know this is our last episode. We'll talk about the outro bit, because we did go full circle with RSVP, right? You had this idea of starting and ending the album with our WhatsApp recordings, and they're all genuine. They're not scripted. We pulled genuine.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned in that, I'm trying to remember exactly what the words were, but
I can also tell you where it came from. I went to in Copenhagen. I think they're in London and Paris and different places. But there's this event called Pitch Black Playback. and you
Yep.
go to a movie theater and it's about the revival of the album. And so you go to movie theater, they give you an eye mask, you sit down and you listen to an entire album in the dark. The eye mask is just to create even more of a sensory shutdown so you can really pay attention to the music because of course the lights are out. And I was listening to the Kendrick Lamar To Pimp a Butterfly album.
Yeah.
And I listened to it so closely because my eyes were closed. I was like, oh man, wow, it took me on such a wild ride. And he doesn't necessarily have an outro or intro, but he has conversations that
Yeah,
pepper.
it's a poem that as it
Yeah.
goes along, it adds more lines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like layers, right? And lines and layers and it's so rich. It's such a rich tapestry. I was like, ooh, that would be really nice because this has been so layered. And that's why we made this podcast is because there's been such a beautiful and powerful creative process that went on
Yeah.
behind this. So
Yeah.
it's like there's layers on layers. So how can we reveal some of those layers with people like listening on the track? And that was where the idea came from. So I'm like, man, we have so many videos and audio messages that we have sent to each other back and forth. Like, could we not pull something? And I remember reaching the end. So Tyler was like, are you going to find those?
I think I had deleted so many of them because like my phone, like I'm notoriously always at like full storage, and so like I remember going through every couple weeks and having to delete a bunch of WhatsApp videos because of my storage problem. Anyways, you found the perfect ones though, and it was funny because some of those clips I had made a video, and like some of those clips were the same clips that I had selected way back then. So it was so funny that you were like these, and I'm like, oh, cool. I've already done those before. That was so fun.
It's perfect.
It was
And
a great
so,
idea, and I love full circle moments, beginnings
me
and
too.
endings overlapping. And so, like anytime I can reflect back to the beginning at the end, like it just speaks to me. So when you had that idea, I was like, oh, totally. Like we should definitely try that, and I'm glad we did. What a fun project.
It was an amazing project and I grew a lot from it. And it was such a powerful reminder of how wonderfully pleasurable and beautiful co-creation can be, especially
Yeah.
when we're in a very trusting, intuitive friendship also plays. Like I think our friendship deepened a lot through this entire process because
Totally.
we got to know each other on so many different levels. Co-creation just opened so many doors, and it was also something that brought us a lot of joy too. So, and we were able to get to know each other in a whole new way.
Yeah.
For me, it also revealed like, man, is I'm at this phase in my life where if I could just co-create with my friends, that's like what I want to do more than go
Yeah.
out and party. I want to like make shit with my friends. Like I
Yeah.
really want to do that. And so that was also what it turned me on to. And like, yeah, like more of this. Like, how do I do more of this? How do we do more of this? Because
Yeah.
it's just beautiful. Also, we hope people listen and that it spreads a bit further than our
Yeah.
immediate circles. But we had the total creative freedom of there's no label, there's no pressure, there's no
Yeah.
time. Like we created all that. And that's a gift.
Yeah. I've had this happen on various projects, especially like ones that like this one took about 6 months, like ones
Yep.
that take, longer bouts of time, that when I reach the end of the project, I look back and I'm like, oh wow, I'm a totally different person in a really fun and cool way. It's like the partnership, but it's also just the nature of co-creating with the universe, like you've talked about. It's almost like sometimes when you finish certain commitments or projects, like you almost gain a little something in yourself, or you work something out, or whatever the case might be. And I definitely felt that way about this project. And thinking back to February, March, the things that I was going through, the things that I was thinking, my way of being, like everything, to now totally different in a way that I'm like, ooh, I like what I've become through this process. And there have been other projects too, but this one for me, and I just share this as like an encouragement to people who are considering maybe what could be an overwhelming thing. Like I had never created an album with a poet across the world from me. We're in 2 different time zones, and how are we going to figure all that out? There were so many things on the project that we've talked about that were just new to both of us, and there's a tendency to sometimes be overwhelmed by that. But I would just tell people, if you're thinking that way, just know that there's so much like growth on the other side. And when you get to the other side, you're going to be like, oh, wow, I'm so glad I did that. Regardless of any like outer metric. I'll share this like right now. I've been standing here. Usually I've done it at my home, but I'm standing here behind, or this paper behind me on this window. It's like I'm standing in a cafe right now, and it's going to be me and my partner's cafe. Like I'm doing that. I'm flowing with life, you know, and like I never could have imagined 6 months ago that I was going to be opening a cafe. But it's like you said, like she's a friend of mine and we're going to be creative together. And I'm just so stoked for that. And I noticed the other day, I was like ripping up some tile and we were just getting the place ready. And I remember thinking like, man, I'm so glad I did that project with Pia and like all these other projects, because I'm realizing how much of what I learned in our working together is what has made me equipped to undertake this project, which is like another like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? But I'm just going to flow with life. I'm going to trust the process. All the things that we've talked about this entire podcast, they're not just like trite sayings. Once you do the work, it becomes a part of you. And so now here I am doing this and I'm like, yeah, this is fine. If you saw this space right now, you'd be like, oh, Tyler, are you okay? But like, it's like, no, I trust the process. Like it's going to work out. I know it will, because this.
Of course. And I love what you're pointing to, which is it's not only about what we create, but who we get to become in the process.
Yeah.
And it's really that. It's just so powerful. And we're changed through the process of creation and co-creation. And that's the wildest part of all. Right? I think it's like what we create as a cherry on top is the bonus. And I've loved witnessing how you're flowing with life. And we all have to start with pulling up tiles. That's how it begins. And that's what makes it so rewarding at the end, when you take a step back and you look at what you've built and you're like, whoa, I remember I was pulling up tiles. And that's part of creation. Like we don't know what it's going to be when we set out to do it. We have no idea. So we have to trust the mystery, embrace it, move with it, and let go. And you know, that can be scary, but also incredibly fulfilling. And I don't know about you, but that makes me feel alive.
Absolutely.
Right?
It feels real. Like feels like there are stakes. It's not as comfortable as working a 9 to 5 and binging on Netflix all the time. It's not that, but it's something else. And to me, it's more exciting. It's more rich. It's more, and like you bring up such a great point. It's like, I have this question, do I make art or does art make me? And it's a little bit of both, right? Like as we're creating, like you said, we are being created into something new.
Yes.
And yeah, I think that you start by you're just like creating these little works, these little pieces, these little fragments. And before you know it, you're literally like, I had this idea the other day. I was like, oh, I'm creating life. Like that's what we're doing. We're literally
it's the art life, baby.
Yeah. And it's like, I don't have any kids. Like I haven't created life in that way, but it's like, no, I'm creating life right now. Like everything I'm doing is me creating life. And it's like wild and exciting and all of the things. Yeah.
And life is creating through you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that it's circular. It's just meta, just like writing the pleasure principle and then hearing you compose a piece from your pleasure center and then having that give me pleasure. And then hopefully that touching someone and them feeling pleasure from it. It's like, it's a collective. It's for all of us. It happens for all of us and through us. And we get to connect through that, through our creativity. And I think that's just so powerful. So we're creating art is creating us, and life is working through us and with us.
Yeah.
So creation is creating.
I love it.
Yeah. We should play Pleasure Principle.
Play it.
Let's hit it up. Let it roll.
Pleasure Principle, a love poem for the universe. Bring all of me online. All systems go. Nothing held back. L'chaim. Leaning against a truck in Joshua Tree, local coffee in hand, laughing at being lost in the desert, Lana Del Rey on the radio. picking a designer dress off the rack when not on sale because I've pried fierce grip, finger by finger, from my wrist. Being seen because I reveal who I am and the pleasure of our entrainment. Frequency swaying, scribbling our initials, an arrow through a heart. Savoring each muscle swimming in white wine sauce, drop in history to the laughter of my mother. Setting down heavy bags, hair plastered to my forehead, changing into a bikini and charging into the pool, chlorine splashing sunbathers. Rolling with life, car window down, elbow on the edge, breeze raising goosebumps, toes smudging the windshield, chest full, nothing but watermelon lip smackers, shades, and a phone loaded with joint playlists, riding into the valley of the gods like I'm landing on Mars. Releasing ideas of where my love needs to live, no longer safe in an apartment in Park Slope, but like a smoke machine, it has no domicile. It slips under doors and makes every place a party. Breaking my heart to open, pieces flying everywhere, only to get caught in our teeth like popcorn kernels at movies we fall in love with. Sunburned and freckled, hair sprayed with sun in, skin dosed in coke and baby oil before we knew better. Braided hair, the discovery of orgasms. Fucking pleasure. It's everywhere. In the sun's kiss, the heart of an artichoke, art that makes me cry, chopped onions and heartache. In the Montserrat plant that shows me how to take up space, in the Billie Eilish track that turns my kitchen into a dance floor. In the sleep caught in the edges of your eyes, hair trying to escape your scalp, walking toward me with a half smile, sleepy. In our deep, thundering kiss, tongues lightning, bringing on the storm. In the sweat gathering under my breast and the small of my back as I shake and spin. In the white suede candle flickering on a day when the rain hits windows. Your fingers tracing the ridges of my backbone, reading my spine like braille. In the moon, a pin, reminding me where I am beyond earthly routines. In the breeze, carrying gardenia and leaving a bouquet at my feet. Pleasure, it's everywhere, waiting for you to pull it in like a dying lover with an urgency that makes the universe hold its breath on the edge of its seat, consumed by the scenes you're creating.